And good day, everyone. I'm Mark Johnston, your host for Your Vote, Your TV's coverage of the 2022 municipal election. And I'm here with the wonderful Jeff Lees from Port Hope, who is running for mayor in the municipality of Port Hope. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Mark.
I would say this is not your first rodeo, and I would love to explore the depth of history that you have serving the community, but also with your eye on the seat of mayor, with Mayor Sanderson winding down.
Yeah, I'm in my 25th year. I've been on 7 different councils. I've worked with 4 different mayors, and I've worked with 5 different CAOs in that 25 years. I've sat on every committee. I've been the chairman of every portfolio except for one. I didn't do finance, but I was on the audit committee for that portfolio anyways. Yeah, I've done everything on council you possibly can do. I've had a lot of experience, a lot of great times, a lot of learning. You know, Port Hope has changed slowly over the years. It's still got that small community feel, but we are slowly progressing. People say that, you know, we're not changing, but over the 25 years, you know, there is a lot of change. You just have to sit down and look at it.
Fair enough. And the question comes forward, why this election? Why now have you chosen to throw your hat in the ring?
Well, you know, every time that I've ran, I've always, of course, checked with my wife, because I'll tell you, if you don't have that good support at home, you'll never survive this job, that's for sure. And you know what? People think it's not a job, but it is a full-time job. In Port Hope, the only one according to the board order is full-time is the mayor. The rest are considered part-time, but I can tell you, you're on the clock 24/7. Like I said earlier, I never shut my phone off, and it rings all the time. And if they can't get you on the phone, they'll come right to your house. So it's an experience. People, you know, they really get their eyes opened up when they do run for council, and if they happen to get in, it's a lot bigger job than people think it is.
Fair enough. I appreciate that, Jeff. And some would say you certainly have a pedigree in this business because you've been serving the community for some time. Curious to know your thoughts of the opportunity here as Mayor Sanderson winds down his time, that it's a time for change regardless, because we know he's winding down. What are the top 2 or 3 key priorities that you have as the potential of stepping in as mayor?
Well, I think the key top priority, see, we're urban and rural. That's the good thing. We are so blessed, you know, people, you know, say things and blah, 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 but we are so blessed to have a rural area attached to Port Hope. They, you know, the more you spend time out there, the more you appreciate the farmland, the farm businesses, the businesses alone. There's more and more businesses getting in our rural area, and we're so lucky to have rural. And you know, it's a combination. The 2 top things that are both in rural and urban area is taxes are number 1, and roads are number 2. And after that, there is a couple subtle differences. In the rural area, protecting farm and farmland, and internet is the other one that is big. In the urban area, it's the low-level cleanup and eliminating red tape at town hall through different departments. We have, and I want to make this very clear, we have great staff that work for the municipality, but there is a few departments that need a bit of tweaking, a bit of reorganizing, and it's not due to the staff, it's the organizational part of it. It does need work.
So the architecture, the infrastructure itself, you're looking at making some changes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's about 3 or 4 departments, I would say, that needs to be reorganized, you know, because we get complaints daily, weekly, you know, and again, it's not the people, it's the way it's organized. And you know, we're not sure if they're short-handed or they're, you know, too much work, or we're not quite sure. But we have to delve into that, get that cleaned up, and tell people we're open for business in Port Hope.
Good to know this. And so since you have this great history serving the community for this many years, Jeff, I'm curious your thoughts on the interactivity between municipal, provincial, and federal governments. Clearly you've had exposure to this journey of 3 levels of government trying to do work together and make change. Now, what would your thoughts be on your role as mayor in terms of connecting with those levels of government and making change?
Well, I think it's very important because, you know, we are the lowest tier, and people don't understand that. We are at the ground level. We see people every day, we talk to people every day, the county, provincial, and then federal. So we're at the ground level. We are the workers, you know, most affected. That'll affect people the most is at the municipal level. And we need to work with those other tiers of government, the county, the provincial, and the federal government, you know, working together to do large projects. You look at any big project that's been done in Port Hope, the province and the federal government have always given us money towards those. And really, you know what, on our own we can't. So we have to continue to work with the federal and provincial government to get infrastructure done, big projects done. We have several projects on the go right now, and a lot of them were with help from the federal and provincial government. And I personally have a great relationship with the provincial government rep that we have currently. Not so much any other time, and I'm not going to say much about Mr. Bacchini, but I have a pretty good working relationship with David.
Good to know that. Good to know that. I'm curious about the team in Port Hope. When you talk about the concept of people coming together, that they have a job to do, what would your thoughts be as mayor in terms of the people on the bus that are actually running council, that are working for the community, just in terms of how people come together to do the job they're asked to do? Would you make changes in that?
Yeah, see, we went a 4-year period without a CAO, and they had the directors. They made a board of directors amongst the directors, and quite frankly, I wasn't in favor of it when it was done. Again, you only get one vote when you sit on council, and people forget that as well. I didn't find it worked efficiently because each one of those directors was spending probably 20-25% of their time doing work that a CAO would. So, we were back then trying to save money by not having a CEO. But in fact, you're hurting each of those departments because if a person's spending 20-25% of their time doing the CAO's job, well, they're not getting their own job done. And the savings really weren't there. Things were falling through the cracks and we weren't getting things done. So this latest council, we've hired a new CAO, David Smith. He's outstanding. He does great work. And his mentality with his team is really, really outstanding, and he's making some big improvements.
Good to know this. Thank you, Jeff. Let's imagine for a moment I'm a taxpayer in Port Hope. Jeff Lees comes in to take on the position of mayor. How will my life and my journey in Port Hope shift in a tangible way? What are the key things that I would see different?
Well, myself, like I said, I've learned a lot over the 25 years. I've worked with 4 different mayors, and I would be sharing more information with my councilor. A lot of times I find that the mayor doesn't share everything that's going on in the community. Everybody wants to meet with the mayor all the time, but see, I've always said there's no reason a mayor couldn't make a list of people that he's met with, just, in general, like so-and-so wanted to meet about development, so-and-so wanted to meet about this. There's no reason why he couldn't make a list or a chart of these are the last people I've worked or talked to in the last week about these general statements, and share that with your council so they're not caught off guard, by these people saying, well, I talked to the mayor and he said this and that. And you know what, any questions that they have, they can ask you, and then we're all in the loop, and that's how you build team building, right? Yeah. And I believe in that. Even the decisions right off the bat of who's going to get what portfolios and stuff, I don't want to decide that myself. I think it's only fair that the council sit down and they all decide who's getting what portfolios, and also then we'll divvy out the committees that each person will take as well. So it'll divvy it out evenly, and all of council will have input on that, not just the mayor. I've always found that awkward, and you question afterwards, well, why did I get this portfolio, and why is this person on it? I think it should be made, see, I'm part of team building. I really like team building. I want the whole council to have input on that. And you know what, I can honestly look at people's bios and say, you know what, these are the people I think that would be good in these positions. But I want to share that responsibility with council.
Interesting. Well, I hear transparency and empowerment are 2 words that come to mind.
Yeah, well, people, you know what, I know I'm probably the most transparent person. I mean, with me, I have no agenda. I have no grudge against the municipality. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm the most transparent guy probably around. What you see is what you get. I know I'm not the most fanciest person in the world, but I can tell you what you see is what you get with me. And usually when I say something, I mean it. So myself, that's the only transparency I can talk about is myself, and I'm pretty transparent. If you ask me something, I'll tell you best of my knowledge, and if I don't know the answer, I will find out for you.
Okay, well said, Jeff. Thank you for that. I'm curious about the demographic in Port Hope and how you see things shifting when we have certainly an aging population is the nature of the beast. This is part of the community in Northumberland at large, but also the younger generation. And so as mayor, how would you see servicing kind of both sides of that coin, where you have some of us that are in an older demographic and also the up and coming younger generation? How would you balance that?
Well, lately I've been seeing a lot of young families in Port Hope. Like you said, Port Hope was mostly 45% of our population is over the age of 55 in Port Hope. And we are, we're starting a new senior center up at the Town Park Recreation Center. We're building a $3 million senior center addition onto the rec center. That's for the seniors, but we have a lot of other stuff for young families. Like we just put in a splash pad. We have a skateboard park. You know, we have to look at things for both sides. You know, the younger and older. We have to make improvements everywhere. I mean, Port Hope's not perfect, but you know, I think me as mayor, I will make it better for sure.
Okay, thank you for that. When it comes to the interactivity, even with the town of Cobourg, municipality of Port Hope, coming through the pandemic at this level, things are obviously shifting into a different gear. We all went through the experience of lockdowns, but people are moving again. We had the Eye to Eye International Film Festival for Northumberland County. The arts are coming back. People are gathering again. What are your thoughts, Jeff, on just how to get us to a new chapter, looking back at what we've come from so far, and how do we restart in a good way?
Well, you know, the big thing with COVID is there was no handbook. Every day it changed. There was different rules every day, and the council of the day, we were being asked questions, and we didn't know because, you know, we would go to the province and the Minister of Health, they would change it every day. So we went through a difficult time. I'm really glad to see people are back out. They're being active. Actually, I think a lot more people are coming out to these events and things because they've been cooped up for the last couple of years. So we're getting out, staying in crowds. Port Hope is a very vibrant and active community. We have festivals. We have the upcoming Port Hope Fair. You know, and I think the more we can add to events, things for people to do, young and old, you know, and try to separate all that. We're very active. Every weekend we have something going in Port Hope, and I think that's the thing we have to do. We have to support all these arts and events and community events. We have to support those as best we can, and not only financially. I think another part that is big with me, I'm active in the community. I always have been, and I want to encourage my council to be active as well. In my opinion, it's not just about photo ops and going to meetings. It's about every member of council should be out at these events, supporting all the local groups and supporting them, you know, not just money. It's not all about money all the time. It's about being there, and you learn about your community by being out at all these different events and stuff. So I've always been active. I've always done that. So I'll encourage my council to do the same. Be out there, be active, support all these groups. I think that's a winning way to do things.
This is great to know. Thank you for that. We're approaching a moment where we want to take a break, and we'll follow up with another 13-minute segment after this, Jeff. But thank you for what you've offered so far. For the viewing audience at home, just know that you're watching Your Vote, which is Your TV's coverage of the 2022 municipal election. I'm Mark Johnston. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. I'm Mark Johnston, your host for Your Vote, which is Your TV's coverage of the 2022 municipal election. I'm here with Jeff Lees out of the municipality of Port Hope, who is looking to take the seat of mayor in this election. Jeff, thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
As I mentioned in the break, I always like to bring a bit of a human lens to an interview. So there's public record. People have a sense of who you've been in the community, what you've done for the municipality of Port Hope. What's something people don't know about Jeff Lees?
Well, again, like I said, I'm pretty transparent. My family roots go back to a farm west of Welcome. We had a farm there. My grandfather, I grew up on the farm. My mom and her 4 siblings, they all went to Morris School, which is like a one-bedroom school, one-room school back in a small community. And then my grandfather sold the farm, and then we moved in. Then I was born. I attended Central School. I attended Dr. Hawkins. I attended Port Hope High School. Left high school, met my wife. I've been with her ever since. I've been with her for 41 years. We just had our 35th anniversary just recently. I have a 30-year-old son that I raised in Port Hope. Port Hope's been my town forever and my community forever. And I have a lot of, I belong to all kinds of different organizations. I go out and support organizations. But I'm very grateful for the friends and family that I have. I have a great support system behind me. And Port Hope, is just a great community to grow up in and raise your children. And, it's amazing. Even like we've discussed before, the difference between Port Hope and Cobourg is so different. Like I said, we're lucky to have the rural and urban mixture. We get stuff in the rural area that is just fabulous. And I mean, that's a big advantage. I love the rural life because that's where I came from, right? Yes. and I love it. And you know, Port Hope is so great. You can walk down the streets all the time and you talk to people. And a lot of the newer people that are coming here, that's why they're coming here, because they like that small town feel.
Yes.
And you know, people say there is no changes in Port Hope, but there is lots of changes happen slowly. But I love the community. I'm very lucky to have the support system I have with friends and family. The one thing that does bother me is people say the difference between lifers and recently added to the community. I hate that. It really bothers me. That's the one thing I'd say that I don't like, is when people compare lifers to recently added people. In my world, we're all the same. I treat everybody the same. I don't care if you've been in town for a day or you're a resident for a day or you've been here your whole life. We're all the same in my book. And I think people should be treated as such. And that's just the way I've always been brought up.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you, Jeff. Let's talk about the fact that there's quite a collection of humans looking to take the seat of mayor in Port Hope. You have a choice, as every election brings. Your thoughts on the strongest foot forward for Jeff Lees as mayor compared to the other candidates? What would you say?
Quite honestly, my only commitment to the municipality of Port Hope is I'm going to work the hardest I can. It'll be my full-time job. I will treat it as a full-time job. I will be there 8:30 in the morning, and I will go home when the work for that day is done. I will treat it like a full-time job. This isn't in a board order. The only one that's full-time is the mayor. All the other ones are considered part-time. So I will treat it like a full-time job, and I will be there. All I can guarantee you, like I said, I'm not the most polished person in the world, but my mother always told me polish wears off with hard work, and I can guarantee the people of Port Hope, I will work hard.
Great to hear that. Great to hear that. Curious, just to give people a weather gauge here, Jeff, in terms of the type of changes that you're seeing in the future as mayor of Port Hope. Are they sweeping changes? Are they navigational and fine-tuning? Can you give us a bit of a sense of where you're at with that?
You know, like I said, Port Hope changes slowly. We have always been very methodical, very, you know, we try to put things in place very slowly. I don't want to see urban sprawl. I want to try to, like I said, protect our farms and farmland. As you know, Ontario is losing 300 acres a day of farmland, and that's a big concern to me. We have such a great rural area. I don't want to lose that farmland. It's very valuable to me and everybody in the municipality of Port Hope. And I want to see change, but I don't want to see radical change, because I think if you do a huge change and you turn it into the big city and stuff, people didn't come here and they weren't raised here thinking Port Hope was a big city. They like the small community atmosphere, and I want to try to keep that, but I also want to go forward with well-planned development. Development, we need it. We need more industry. We need more commercial to bring the tax base down in Port Hope. And I think with some real savings and look, we can, I'm not saying your taxes are ever going to go down. I mean, anybody that tells you that, I really don't think they're telling you the truth. Right. Because you think about it, anything in the last 5 years, nothing has gone down. Nothing. So to say I'm going to take your taxes down, I don't believe in that. I think small increments make a big difference. And I mean, that's the same with change. If you do a lot of little changes, they add up to a big change. Okay. But I don't want to change the atmosphere and the small town feel of Port Hope. Fair
enough. Thank you for that, Jeff. Talking about history in Port Hope, a lot of history in terms of industry, manufacturing, things like that. Similar in the town of Cobourg, this idea of we've had a history and a background here where factories and other businesses have operated, and some of those buildings sit not used today. What are your thoughts on honoring history, but also moving forward?
Well, we're very lucky. We have Cameco, we have ESCO, we have other manufacturers, big and small. Every business in Port Hope adds to the feel of Port Hope. And if we can attract and find more land, that's our biggest obstacle, is finding more land. As you know, we had that Wesleyville deal on the go. That fell through. I'm hoping we can look for other pieces of land in the municipality that we can offer industry and commercial to come here, because that will certainly help bring our taxes down.
Good to know. And when you mentioned Wesleyville, what lessons would you say were learned in that experience that you would take to new ventures?
Well, honestly, right from the beginning, I questioned our process, if our process was correct. I asked at meetings and stuff, is this the right process to follow? And I truly believe that this is one of those times when the big boss up top didn't know what the little boss down, or the little person down below was doing. We had we had an agreement all set and ready to go. We thought it was going to be, the best thing for Port Hope ever. And at the last minute, it was pulled from us because I think Mr. Ford didn't realize what was going on down here. And it was a great deal. Some people say it's not, we would have been in debt, but every municipality in Ontario is in debt. There's debt load for everybody. This was, I can remember when we bought the Smith property, we got ridiculed and everything for buying that, and we turned that into an industrial park. Now we're getting good tax dollars out of that every year for, investment. You have to invest money to make money. Yes. We all have to do that. And that's what I want to see, that done wisely. I want to make our planning, same with the development, I want to see development done properly.
Fair enough. Another big topic for most taxpayers and voters, obviously, Jeff, is the environment. I'm curious to know your thoughts in the municipality of Port Hope, priorities and objectives and goals when it comes to dealing with the environment.
Yeah, most people know that we have one of the largest nuclear waste cleanups going on, and that, to be honest with you, has been a struggle from the very beginning. It's taken, in my opinion, way too long. It's, it was years before they even moved the first bit of dirt. And this is a big concern. I think the municipality has to work closer with the low-level cleanup to get it moving properly, and also the environment has to be considered much more than what it is now. I believe it's just taken far too long. We're promises dates. They haven't met a date yet. They haven't met anything on the schedule. The money, I'm sure, is going to run out someday. They're going to have to go back to the federal government. But as for environment, we're losing a lot of trees. That's a big concern with our people, and I understand that. I was lucky. I have an arborist. My son went to school to be an arborist, so I'm very lucky to know about trees and things like that. But we have to plan that out better. They're looking at changing the arsenic levels, so maybe they won't have to take down as many trees as what they are. It's because it's co-mingled, the low-level waste and the arsenic. So you can't just pull a tree up, clean underneath, and put it back. Right, so we've got to find ways of trying to save more trees. But other people don't know that, the GRCA gives out thousands of trees to people in the municipality of Port Hope all the time that are replanting. And I also want to see all the streetscapes, when we redo them, like Walton Street and that, I want to see them put up more trees and things like that. And we can all do a little bit to help the environment ourselves. Walk a little bit more, recycle, reuse, do all that stuff. I think we can all do our part, and that'll add up, to big time.
Fair enough. Thank you for that, Jeff. Just to talk about the landscape or fabric of the community in Port Hope, diversity. We have our First Nations community that we like to support. Other different cultures coming together. What are your thoughts at the idea of sitting in the mayor's seat and how you would bring community together?
Well, that's the big thing. Diversity is huge. I love different cultures. Different cultures, you learn things all the time about different cultures, and I think that's really the coolest thing ever. Like, people bring music, they bring the arts, they bring food, they bring all these different things to our community. And the more we can bring to Port Hope for those kind of things, I think it's awesome. At the end of the day, when you have festivals of different ethnic groups and our Indigenous brothers and sisters, I think it's great. I've attended the powwow out in Roseneath. It's just awesome. I love all that stuff, and I think the more we can bring diversity and more cultures and more ethnic people together, I think it's great. I mean, you can only make a better society by putting them all together. I think it's great, and I think the more it's all about learning. A lot of things you learn, right? And I mean, we all can't stop learning. We have to learn every day. So I think that's all part of it.
Very true and well said. Just in terms of the future of Port Hope, when we think about a younger generation, we had the Eye to Eye International Film Festival, which supports local filmmakers and storytellers. But part of the goal with that organization is to maintain and keep talent here in the Northumberland region. What are your thoughts, Jeff, in terms of Port Hope and helping to encourage people nurturing and cultivating a life in Port Hope versus getting to an age off to university or college and then they find life elsewhere? Are there any initiatives or thoughts or ideas that you have for that? Well,
it's funny. My age group of people, when we all got out of school, everybody couldn't wait to leave Port Hope. But now that they're older and they appreciate the small town community feel and all that, a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I grew up with are all coming back to Port Hope. Yeah. And you know what they say, again, the lifer thing, but we're all just lucky to live in Port Hope, a lot of us. And like I said, to attract I get people all the time that are new to the community, and that's the reason they came here, because they want that small town feel that they didn't have in the bigger city.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, anything we can do to create that, I think is great, and that's what I don't want to ruin. I don't want to ruin the structure and the community feel of Port Hope. I want to do development, but I want to do it respectfully and planned out well, that we don't change the community. And I think that will bring in, you know, more people to raise their children here. You know, I'm seeing more and more young adults. We're putting in different things for younger adults, younger families, and everything I do, I always try to consider younger families and children. You know, like I said, we just put in a new splash pad. You know, 20 years ago, we would have never thought about a splash pad, but because we're trying to encourage younger families, you know, to take part in things in Port Hope. And again, a lot of it comes around like fair time. You'll see younger families bringing the kids, having a great time. Nothing better than hearing a child laughing and screaming. I think that's awesome. I think that's the good parts of life.
That's great, Jeff. Thank you for all that. I know you come with a great deal of experience and track record in Port Hope. This is winding down our time here on Your Vote. I want to thank you for sharing all you have, and best of luck with the whole election process.
Great. Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, good stuff. You've been watching Your Vote, which is your TV's coverage of the 2022 municipal election. I'm your host, Mark Johnston. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.